Hi, everyone, and welcome to Teaching Nonviolent Atonement. My name is Adam Erickson.
Hi, I'm Suzanne Ross.
And Suzanne, I have to tell you that I am feeling more and more depressed lately. It's this very strange paradox of feeling depressed and feeling like, oh, well, this is just the way that the world is going these days, and it's just what it is. So there's like this despair and depression that is just kind of going on inside of me. We've got school shootings and other kinds of shootings in the United States are making headlines during the last couple of weeks. And we've got this tragedy that's happening in Iraq right now. And it's all just, I don't know how to feel about it, and I don't know really how to think about it. And I'm hoping that you can solve all of those problems for me.
Yeah, I know. I've been feeling the same way, especially watching the news coming out of Iraq with the insurgency taking over Mosul and, heading towards Baghdad. I mean, it's both like, what do you say? I mean, how do you say anything about it that would be helpful and useful? And on the other hand, our site here is about nonviolent atonement, and how can we not say something about the futility of trying to reconcile a nation through violence? We have to somehow find a way to talk about that as a failed effort and a failed paradigm.
Violence is a failed paradigm to bring reconciliation.
I think so, because you and I were talking about the American complicity in what's going on there right now, and our effort to impose a military solution on what we saw as a problem in Iraq, which was a strong man who we didn't like doing bad things, admittedly. So we remove him, but use his same methods of violent intervention to solve problems. Civil war is threatening again and again and again, and now seems almost inevitable.
Yeah, my mind goes back to the beginning of this when we tried the whole shock and awe thing, basically to say, don't mess with us. And if you do mess with us, here's what's going to happen. And it feels like the same kind of shock and awe thing is happening from this ISIS group, which is being labeled as militant Islamics. All of the Iraqi troops are just dropping their weapons and running away. I mean, there's kind of this sense of awe that these people, these militants are bringing in that's just making them run. And it's the memetic element of violence that tries to solve the problems with violence, but violence will never solve it. It will only create more in an imitative, memetic fashion. And so you try to kill us, and we will come back and try to do the same thing for you. It's very predictable.
It's absolutely, and any semblance of peace that's achieved through violence must be constantly shored up by the threat of violence, which is why Saddam was so successful. Any dictator, totalitarian type leader knows that without the threat and application of violence, any unity is going to fall apart. And so when the Americans invaded and then thought we could, through the threat of violence and the use of violence, maintain unity, and then pull out without being sure that there was a suitable force in place to continue that ongoing threat and application of violence, and we thought we could pull out and everything would be fine, it shows our complete lack of understanding, not only of the political situation in Iraq, which we won't even go into, or the historical situation in Iraq, but the fact that if we want to be a strong man, we better be a good strong man, or we're going to leave the place worse than the way we found it.
And it's a complete misunderstanding of how violence works.
Absolutely.
And the way of trying to bring peace, reconciliation, whatever, through violence just doesn't work. And so what's the alternative? What do we do differently in the world? Is there an alternative?
Well, I mean, we need to be honest with ourselves, first of all, as Americans, and stop pretending that we are not just like the enemies that we're trying to bring down. We're just trying to best strong men at their own game. We're trying to best counterinsurgents at their own game. And until we recognize that we're using the exact same methods they're using, we're not going to be able to extricate ourselves from the quagmire of violence.
It's the memetic theory says that violence makes us all the same. It washes away all distinctions, right?
Yeah.
And what I'm seeing from this is that violence makes us all into monsters. Everybody is going to feel like they are fighting the other who is the monster. And when we use violence, we become monsters to one another. And I think that you're right, that the way to go about this is, I mean, for us is not to say, okay, Iraq, here's what you have to do. It's to own up to our own complicity in this and to go into some kind of a self-critique of what we have been doing on a national level, in a local level, and on an individual level to foment this spirit of violence that is everywhere in our world right now. So
absolutely, I couldn't agree with you more, Adam. If this becomes a prompt for Americans to do some real honest soul searching, then perhaps maybe we could find a little ray of hope to dispel a little of the despair you and I are both feeling. Thanks for talking with me about it, Adam.
I'm still depressed, but we'll move forward.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.